At my lowest point in my life, I was not doing well. That was one of the things that gratitude is what pulled me out. There had just been so many things that had been going on in my life in that very moment, and I was really struggling. Having suicidal thoughts was like where I was at, and gratitude is what saved my life.
Gratitude is one of the highest vibrations and highest frequencies. And when we're in that state, we then must draw to us the light vibration. That is in terms of health and wellness in everything in our life.
I like to go back to source. I like to go back to God, because when I do, it's almost like the clouds clear, and gratitude, oh, I have goosebumps. Gratitude is naturally there. It's not like something that I have to do. It's naturally there.
I believe that authentic gratitude is a nervous system starter. It just softens everything. And it's a journey of becoming. If we can practice authentic gratitude, I think it really honors the resilience in us and that hope and that belief that we can do hard things.
Gratitude literally regulates our hormones, lowers our stress. Gratitude is magic, and gratitude is a practice. And I think, other people have said this, but just to have the patience to realize that these things do not happen overnight.
When you have anxiety, that's really fear of things that you can't control. And you can't control all these things around you, and that's what you're having anxiety over. But when you express gratitude, you're expressing gratitude for things that are within your control, really, because you can see those things and you can feel those things.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion. Welcome to our wonderful panel discussion, Gratitude and Grounding, November's Medicine for Anxious Hearts. I'm really excited to be able to, not to facilitate, but to host these panel discussions. My name's Sophia from Sacred You. I have the honor of co-creating Sacred You. And today we have the honor of presenting this panel with the beautiful Rollie ALLAIRE, or Gigato Migwanque. And Rollie, may I hand it over to you? Please introduce yourself and let's get going with these wonderful women who have joined us from all over the world.
Beautiful. So Gigidomi Gunque is my spirit name, which means talking feather woman. And as you can tell, I'm doing this from a car, which typically I'm in my office, but today was a travel day and we're running a little behind. And that's one of the things in terms of this whole theme and how beautiful this theme fits is in terms of gratitude. So I have a nice warm car that I actually get to work out of. I have internet that I can still connect to all these beautiful women from around the world. And so I am from Northeastern Ontario, Canada, which is in a very small community. And so we have some women that are here from all parts of the world. And I'm going to have you introduce yourselves. So I'm going to start with Brandi, because you're at the top of my screen, Brandi. So just to try and stay on track in terms of names. So we're going to start with Brandi. If you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Sure. Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Brandi Kelly, and I have been in public education for over 20 years. I started out as a school social worker and became a principal and then a superintendent. And now I've started my own business, Spark Hope EDU. And I'm a speaker, a coach, a consultant, an author, a podcaster. I love doing all the things. And tonight I am coming to you from Illinois. I am about 45 minutes from St. Louis, Missouri, right in between St. Louis, Missouri and Springfield, Illinois. And I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to be here with you all tonight and to just live out my mission. I love equipping leaders in building resilience within themselves and in their communities, and just fostering a sense of hope as I share my message of hope.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Candida, what about you?
Yes, my name is Candida and I'm from Adelaide, South Australia. And I have my health business at Ease Candid Health, which I've been working in now for 32 years. And it's a huge umbrella. Like, I do a range of things. I started off as a massage therapist, but then I very quickly became a Reiki master, and then I was doing a lot of healing modalities like lymphatic drainage, Bowen therapy, acupressure, and I'm also a teacher and educator. So I was running a lot of wellness workshops. I worked in schools for more than 20 years, and I brought yoga and meditation and the wellness thing into schools as well as other corporations. Now that I'm much older, I've scaled down a lot. So I'm also doing hypnotherapy. I'm a spiritual life coach and spiritual teacher, human design coach. And so I combine, I'm a retreat leader and a yoga teacher. So I have a lot of stuff, but I don't do it all at the same time. It just depends what is needed. So retreats come up periodically. I teach yoga every week, and I work every week in my clinic, depending on what the client needs, where if they need the physical healing, and it's always combined with energetic healing as well. So yes, I guess I'm a whole range of things, but my main focus is a mantra that I have had for many years has been, we can live and learn through joy and happiness. Now, I know we need the contrast to show us. However, we can choose to find some happiness and some joy in whatever situation. And we don't have to suffer. Like, we do, I know that we do, because we think we need to, but there's a difference between pain and suffering. And within that, I bring in the self-love and the self-care. So I know I've just said a lot of stuff, and it's not just black and white, but the main thing is about this, coming back to knowing of who we are and bringing in the self-love and the self-care, and then it expands from that, from the heart expansion. So I hope that's all made sense.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. So Leo, what about you?
So I'm LEIGH SHULMAN, and I have moved around a lot. Right now, I live in Argentina, but I go to the US, often Atlanta, where I meet with people to work. And the work that I do is I'm an author, and I also work with others, helping them write. And I use everything from craft to neuroscience to things that I think some people find a little bit on the woo side. But very much like Candida was saying, it's about, for me, the top three things are know what you want, feel good, and do good. And when people follow those three things, they tend to find their path pretty quickly and are able to ignore all that other stuff that happens that distracts you. And sometimes I feel like the bulk of my work is telling people, go ahead and do what your instinct is telling you, because so many people don't trust themselves. So often when I'm working with people on their writing projects, that's where we begin. What's your instinct? What is your instinct? Where is it leading you? And all those different tools that I was talking about, we use to listen to yourself, basically, and say, okay, what happens next?
Well, thanks so much. And what about you, Erica?
Hi, everybody. I am Erica. I live about 20 minutes north of Boston. I am a chef, a restaurateur, an author, podcaster, and public speaker. I like to do all the things as well. I'm known as the voice of resilience because as a childhood trauma survivor, I know exactly what it takes to move from a why me mindset to a why not me mindset. I spent a lot of years thinking I had to stay in my lane. This is where it was. I was never going to get any further or go any more. And in changing and healing my own anxiety and my own childhood trauma, I have learned to grow from that, to change, to create the world around me that I live in. It definitely came with many decades of learning and growing and understanding, expressing gratitude and understanding how the world really works and what, and that your past doesn't have to define your future. So I'm a firm believer is you can do all the things too, Candida. You just can't do them all at the same time.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Erica. And what about you, Sandy?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sandy Lemian, and I am from about 30 minutes south of Boston in Massachusetts in the States. For the last 30 years, I've been a spirit medium, helping people understand a different side of death from the idea that there really is no death, that nothing really dies, it just changes form and energy is still available for us, and teaching people how to have their own connections to their loved ones in spirit. I'm also a spiritual guide, helping women who feel just stuck and not sure how to get themselves unstuck. And through doing this work for so long, I have met so many amazing women who have led lives where they've really been through so many things in life, and now they know that they're here to share their story. And so, as an unshushed guide, I am helping women write their stories. And I call myself also a memoir coach because I just find that there's such power in our stories when a woman can share their story, not from a place of, here's what happened to me, but when they've really understood how it's happened for them and they've come on the other side of it. There is such power in that. And I believe it helps us to feel more connected in a seemingly disconnected world. And there's healing in sharing their stories too. And so that's a big part of my passion. And I do a lot of surrender work because I think magic comes when we can fully surrender to God, to source, and partner with the universe in some really beautiful ways.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. What a powerful group of women that we have in leading this conversation and leading this discussion. And so as we're moving into November, so with me being Canadian, we had our Thanksgiving in the month of October. And for those of you who are in Australia, you guys don't celebrate that Thanksgiving, but those of you who are in the US, you guys are moving into that energy of Thanksgiving and that gratitude and that connection, which is like that whole theme of where it is that we're coming from. And so the first question that I have is, how does November's grounding energy create unique opportunities for anxiety healing that might not be available during other seasons? So as we're moving through this season, as we're moving into like the Christmas season or the holiday season, whatever it is that refers to. And so for Candida, who's moving into the summer season and such. So how does that energy come forward for you? Brandy, do you want to start?
Sure. And I agree with so many of these women on here tonight that our stories do have such immense power. And I think back over the course of my life, I just released my first book. It's called Lead with Hope, Building a System of Self-Efficacy. And that process of writing that book was so cathartic for me because my whole story started from trauma. My brother Brandon drowned when I was 15. And then 9 years later, my mom had cancer. And those are difficult situations to navigate through. And the story that I want to tell tonight to put a fine point on the answer to this question is there was a day that after my mom had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, the doctor had given her just 6 months to live, and she was devastated. She had lost hope. And we were driving to a health food store, and we were looking at the leaves. It was an autumn day. It's beautiful. The leaves were turning colors. There was all the vivid colors, red and orange, just beautiful. And she looked at me as we were driving and she said, Brandy, when you get a diagnosis like this, you can truly see the beauty in the world. Why does it take such hard times to see the beauty in the world? And this time of year specifically, and I'm going to try to share this without crying, but this time of year reminds me of my mom's wisdom. November carries a slower rhythm for me. The world starts to quiet itself. We have shorter days and cooler air. It's the time of year that I am specifically grateful because of my mom's words. I hear them in the background of my life during this time. And it reminds me to be grateful for the people that God has placed in my life, for the beauty that is outside, for just that ability to be able to become the person that you are supposed to be here on the earth. And I loved what Leigh said, knowing what you want, feeling good, and doing good, because that's what we want to attract. And that practice of gratitude, just knowing who you are and what you want and being grateful for the little things in life, the turning leaves, the people that you get to. I go to church every Sunday with my kids and my grandkids. Best day of the week for me. And just being grateful for that. And for me, knowing what I value, my faith, my family, and service to others. There's a scripture that I love. It reminds me of what's important in the world. And that scripture is Philippians 4, 6, and 7. It says, don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And so for me, just focusing on my faith, my family, and doing good, putting good into the world, helps me to remember to be grounded and grateful, especially in November. Reminding my mom's words, there's so much beauty in this world, and we need to enjoy it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that precious story. Candida, what about you?
Yes, I would like to say also thank you, Brandy. It's such a beautiful story. And it brings us back to the present. So about me, and as everybody knows, I'm in Australia, and so we're coming into the summer. But when I read the question, I thought, for me, gratitude is an everyday thing. It's come about. I wasn't just born. Like, it's come about through my life experiences. It's an almost like an every moment thing. When I remember, like during the day, I have a practice that I take all my clients through and all my students through, and that I do myself daily. And it's connecting to the heart and using the breath to connect to the heart. You might know of it, heart-mind coherence. It takes a few minutes, combining it with breath work. If anybody would like, I'm happy to do it, but I don't want to take up people's time with that. But it's about, with the breath, connecting to the heart, and within that, expanding that heart energy by bringing to mind just one thing that we're grateful for. Just can be one thing, and it can be anything. It can be a plant, a pet, a person, a situation. And that feeling of gratitude with each breath that you take expands right through your heart, through your whole body. And so I talk people through it expanding through every cell in their body until you are sitting or standing or lying in a sphere of your own heart energy. And that feeling, once you have felt it once, you can recall it time and time again. It's much more powerful and impactful if you do it with the breath. It just takes a couple of minutes, but that keeps you in a state of gratitude. And being in a state of gratitude is one of the highest vibrations and highest frequencies. And when we're in that state, we then must draw to us the vibration. And that is in terms of health and wellness, in everything in our life. And one of my messages, cornerstone messages, is about this gratitude. And I find that clients that are very anxious, so I've had a client that could hardly speak, they were so anxious. And I'd never met them before, but just began with this short breath thing with less than 5 minutes. And then they were able to talk and so that I could help, because I had no idea, because they couldn't actually speak. So it's a very powerful practice. I guess we'll talk more about the grounding and the anxiety, but this is something that I do every day. I combine it with grounding. I go outside and combine it, and that really sets me up for the day, and I can feel my energy. It shows us how we are masters of our energy. We can. It's up to us. So that's that for me for now. We could talk more about other stuff later.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. And Leah, what about you?
I'm also in the Southern Hemisphere. So while we may not be we're getting warmer and it's later, we're still having the holidays where people, right now it's the end of the school year and everything's rushing. And then you get to a point where it's holidays and everyone's slowing down. And for years, I remember feeling, I knew it was supposed to slow down, yet why was it slowing down? And I couldn't be comfortable with the fact that things were slowing down, and I wasn't getting replies from people, and social media was slowing down. And I think it's really important to recognize that this is a season where we are with family, and that can mean many different things. It can be good and bad. It can be happy, sad when you're with family. But to stop and set boundaries and to say, all right, I want this, I don't want this, and I'm going to take time. I'm not going to just be pushed into something that I don't want. I'm going to consciously and carefully make decisions, and there's more time to do it now. And I think being able to let yourself know that and really embrace that slowdown is really useful. And it's something that I've had to do a lot. And also with clients, not just with the holidays, but when people tell me, oh, I should be doing this by now, I should. And the word should for me is always a sign that somebody is taking someone else's expectations and placing it on themselves. So we say, look, let's reframe, let's talk about this differently. What do you mean you should? What do you want? And when you can slow down and move from should, which is outside of yourself, to what I want, then you can begin to decide what actions you want to take. But I think also, like, we live in a world where we have these like 30-second Instagram clips that start off with this, do these 20 things and it's going to transform your life. And it never takes into account the fact that it doesn't actually happen in the 30 seconds that the video takes. And 20 things or 5 things is a lot. And to try to establish that in your life so quickly is unrealistic. So you can do all those things and they might help, but it takes time. And just give yourself grace and space. That's what I always say. You've got to give yourself grace and space. And actually, what Brandi said, I hadn't actually thought about talking about this, but this idea of why don't we stop to see the beauty? My aunt 2 years ago, around this time of year, we went to visit in December, and she'd been diagnosed shortly before that with also a terminal cancer, and she was given 3 to 6 months, and she ended up living for 2 more years, more than 2 more years. And I know without a doubt that, because she basically said, I only want things in my life that bring me joy, and I only want to be around people who love me. And she let go of everything that wasn't that. And I am certain that is why she lived well beyond the time that whatever doctors give you it's not written in stone. But I know it was her attitude. And when I think about that, I think about my own life, and something's stressing me out or something's moving too fast. There's literally nothing that's more important than being there in the moment and being able to find your joy.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Leigh. And Erica, what about you?
Hey. So I actually love November, even though I'm in the Boston area. It's freezing out right now, and I don't love the cold at all. My arthritis doesn't love the cold, none of it. But I grew up really only expressing gratitude in November. It was, oh, it's Thanksgiving. You have to be grateful for what you have. Everybody be grateful. And we all sat around the dining room table on Thanksgiving, and everybody would go around and say what they were grateful for. But I don't have any other memories of ever expressing gratitude for anything in my life. It was always, I don't have enough. Why don't I have enough? So on and so forth. And why does that person have more than me? And how am I going to survive? And what am I going to do? I never understood what gratitude really meant. And one of the things I love about November is, and everyone else had said this, is that it's time to slow down. This is the month before we hit the hustle of the holiday seasons for us with Christmas and everything. We hit Thanksgiving, and the next day is Black Friday, and everybody's trying to shop and move as much as you can, and the stores are full and there's traffic everywhere. And before that happens, I find that this is the most important month where you really do get to take the time to slow down and reflect, even if it's on just the past few months or the past year, to determine where you are and maybe where you can. My favorite thing to do is cozy up by the fire. And as a writer, one of the things that I like to express is that, especially if your mind is really busy and you can't seem to calm it down, even though Mother Nature is telling us that's what it's time for. The leaves are almost done falling. We're getting frost on the ground now. Cozy up. Think about the things that you need to nurture yourself. I love to get it all out of my head, to just write it all down on some paper, and then I throw it right in my fireplace, and then up it goes with the smoke, and it just takes away a lot of that anxiety and worry that I have. It took a lot of years for me to learn how to actually understand what gratitude really meant and express that gratitude, and then to be able to catch myself when I'm feeling anxious and worried rather than grateful for what I have. I also lost my mom around this time as well to cancer, so it's a little bit serendipitous that you both had brought that up, Bree and Brandi and Leigh. And she passed away right at the end of October, and I went into the November season of gratitude and everything else, having just lost my mom. And that was a particularly difficult time. So I'm grateful that it was a slow down time. That was time to stop and reflect. And I didn't have to worry about the hustle and bustle right away. And we can just take that time to get through it. So I just think that November is great. Even though it's cold, step outside and get some fresh air for a few minutes. You know, do some breathing exercises out in the cold, fresh air. I particularly like to do that at night when the stars are out, if you can see them, if it's not raining. Typically the stars are clear, I can see the moon, and I'll go out and express gratitude and just breathe in. It's freezing out, but then I go back inside and I bundle up and I get comfy cozy. This is the time where I get to spend more time with my children. You're right, because as everything's slowing down, it's getting darker, the days are shorter, they're home sooner. We're sitting around the table having dinner, we're doing paint nights, we're spending all that time together, and that's something that is really needed, especially after a long season. All the sports are starting to end for us here too, as well. So everybody's done with all of their field hockey and soccer and all of that stuff. They're home more often. And that's a great time to be able to just be together with people. I feel like November is a great reset month before you get to the December and the holidays, and then boom, it's the new year. And then you're supposed to have goals and resolutions and hit the ground running and figure it all out in 30 seconds. So that's why I love November.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Erica. And Sandy, what about you?
Coincidentally or not, my mom also passed mid-October about 5 years ago. It's just interesting, the serendipity here. For me, Erica, we're similar to you. We were brought up where we would pray to God and just thank God for our blessings, for our health, but it almost felt rote. Or doing a food prayer, it was like, so I don't know that gratitude for me ever really landed until my life was broken open. 30 years ago, I lost an infant daughter, and it opened up my entire world, broke it open, broke me down. But that's what connected me to the whole world of spirit and to God's energy. And for me, in the last 30 years, sometimes it's easy for me to forget to be grateful. I'll be honest. It's when my life is really busy and I'm plugged in out there, or I'm plugged into work and super busy, I can forget to be grateful. Now it's more, my practice is, how can I withdraw my attention from the outside world and come back here into my heart and just take time for quiet. I love getting quiet. When I get quiet, that's when I can feel God's presence in me, not out there, but in me. And when I connect with God like that, and I teach my clients how to do that as well, I bring any anxiety, any worry, anything to my conversations with God. And when I do that, and I will specifically say, God, should I be afraid of this? Or should I be anxious about this? And not once ever has God ever said, oh, that thing, oh, you should be very afraid of that. But we often don't go to that source to ask, should I be afraid of this? Should I be worried? We often will circulate it here in our mind and our ego, and our mind and our ego will go to our past and say, oh yeah, you should be very afraid of that because of this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. So I like to go back to source. I like to go back to God, because when I do, it's almost like the clouds clear, and gratitude, oh, I have goosebumps. Gratitude is naturally there. It's not like something that I have to do. It's naturally there. So I like coming back home inside, and that's where I find that energy of gratitude. Because I think Leigh said it, or Candida, somebody said that it's a vibration, and that's how I do see it. Anxiety is a vibration. Gratitude is a vibration. They both exist at the same time. We will go from here to here. Like, we're the ones that travel that journey from gratitude to joy to anxiety. And it's a moment, it's a breath. But I like going to God with everything. God, help me to see this differently. One of my clients said to me today, She's like, Sandy, I love talking to you because you have all the answers. I'm like, I really don't. I don't. What I do have is I have perspective, and I have a spiritual perspective. I tune into God's perspective, and that to me is everything. It's where everything comes from.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I always love how we bring, so Sophia and her team have put this out there, and then the universe brought the five of you into this conversation. And very interestingly, where death is a part of this discussion and this conversation of being able to, and how having lost someone has allowed you guys to be able to have that different perspective of gratitude and where does that come from. And so for anybody else who's watching, this may be something that is like very much for you as well. And loss doesn't have to necessarily be of a person. So just to keep that in mind as well for people, that sometimes it's our life and what we expected, and relationships and jobs and a lot of different things. And so just helping to be able to keep that in perspective when we're talking about that gratitude and how we're able to bring things forward into these discussions. And so I love how the conversation has actually shifted. So we definitely will not have time to be able to go through all of the conversations, but one of the next conversation, because the conversations have been, I'm absolutely mind blowing. And so the next question that I do want to address though is, and a lot of you guys have already touched on this, but I want to be able to go in a little deeper about this, is what does authentic gratitude play in our nervous system regulation, and how do you help clients move beyond that surface level of positivity? So you guys talked about, so Erica and Sandy talked about sitting around the table at Thanksgiving and having these conversations, and that's that surface level gratitude. But how do we get into that part? Brandi, I'm going to have you start.
Yeah. I love the conversations that we're having tonight, and I don't believe anything is coincidence. I believe this was meant to be tonight. There's no coincidence that we are here together talking about this topic of gratitude. And for me, I believe that authentic gratitude is a nervous system starter. It just softens everything. And it's a journey of becoming, because when I first started out, I started out over 20 years ago in education as a school social worker. So I talked with kids, I counseled kids, I helped them navigate some of the hardest seasons of their life. And I did that because people did it for me when my brother Brandon drowned when I was 15, and I wanted to give back. But I didn't really have the gratitude that I needed. I didn't really understand what it meant to truly love God and love people and serve all. And it took me through my journey in life to become and to get to the point that I'm at now. And it happened over time, of course. I was a social worker and then a principal and then a superintendent. But during my season as a superintendent, I was so super busy. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed out, and my health started to take a toll. And at one point, my doctor said to me, Brandi, you need to take a step back. I had hit menopause. Cortisol was flooding my brain day and night, and I was in that fight or flight mode. And I certainly was not feeling grateful. And I wasn't loving the people that I was serving at that point in my life. It was survival mode. And I had to start, first and foremost, I had to pause. I had to take a step back. I left my position as superintendent and focused on my health. And I think the reason that I took that drastic step was because of my mom's sickness, my mom's illness, and seeing how she navigated that and how she had lost hope. And I was bound and determined that my story was going to be different. And I started doing things, going back, looking at, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I know about psychology, I know about fight or flight mode, I know about the nervous system resets and things like that. But one that has worked well for me is a simple grounding techniques. And one that I really like is just that 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique where, and I walk my clients through this too, my coaching clients, I encourage them to do this mindfulness activity and just acknowledge 5 things and put a little different spin on it with gratitude. Acknowledge 5 things that you're grateful for that you can see. Acknowledge 4 things that you can touch. Acknowledge 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And just that simple pause and doing that mindfulness activity, it helps us to calm our nervous system, to soften it, to soothe it, and just to reconnect with the present moment. We are all so busy. Our society is hustle, information in all the time. And if we can practice authentic gratitude, acknowledge that this might be hard, but I'm grateful that I'm not facing it alone, or just simple things like that, I think it really honors the resilience in us and that hope and that belief that we can do hard things, and fostering that and then modeling it. As a mother with grown children now, that's more important to me than ever, modeling what resilience and gratitude and all of the good stuff looks like for them so that they can live a life better than mine.
Well, thank you so much, Brandi. What about you, Candida?
Yes, yes, I'm sitting here thinking, see, I believe that everything is already inside of us, but it might take an external trigger to remind us. But it's not like that brings the gratitude in. The gratitude and all the other things are already within us. But we need to be reminded because of the busyness of life, like Brandi was saying. And it's reminded me of, when did this actually kick in my life, like consciously? Like, when did this gratitude thing? And it's a time in my life when I think I was 29. I'm 74 now, so it was a long time ago. But it was when I separated from my husband, ex-husband now, but husband at the time. My children were 2 and 7. And it was because he was an alcoholic. There was a whole lot of danger going on, a very traumatic time. And so I was quite young and had these 2 children, but I wasn't fazed by that. The problem was being in that dangerous situation. And I remember that people were sort of feeling sorry for me and saying, oh God, it's such a terrible thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I am my children are safe. And I'm so grateful. And all I could experience, they were feeling sorry for me. And all I was feeling was so much gratitude that my children were safe and that I was able to raise them without that influence that was not going to be good for their life and anything. And that's always stayed with me when that has actually like consciously kicked in, this gratitude. But also I believe that to stay conscious of this, like I do the grounding technique, I do it every day. I go outside, and I'm very fortunate to be in a beautiful place, but that has taken a lot of work to get there, like not a lot of inner work, a lot of deservingness stuff, and a lot of all of that to get to this point. And so that is, I start the gratitude before I even open my eyes every single day. And I suggest that to my clients, particularly those suffering with anxiety and depression. And also another time in my life, very traumatic time, like years later, I began to realize I was becoming a bit depressed and suffering a bit with depression. And it was really hard to get myself functional, and I had to work with people. So I began to consciously practice the daily stuff of the gratitude. And that is like changing my energy. Because energy, everything responds to every thought that we have. We have something like 70 trillion cells in our body, and every one of those cells responds to every single thought that we have. And if we have an uplifting thought, the cells will expand, and that will allow health and wellness to flow, like all the healing hormones to flow and their energy to flow. If we have a low vibrational thought, then every one of those cells is going to contract. And so understanding things like that shows us the importance of, we are in charge. We can change things. We can change things within ourselves. We cannot, obviously, not be able to change external stuff, but how we perceive and how we live through those external things is really up to us. And it is well within our power to do that. So I don't know if I've answered the question. I've pretty much forgot the question now.
And again, it's that flow of conversation. So no, that was actually very beautiful, because it really is about being able to have that learned. So like, you didn't just wake up one morning and it's like, poof, I'm exactly where I need to be, and I'm full on gratitude. And one of the other things that I heard you say is that it's not necessarily that, sometimes we have to step back into it, right? So it's like, I need to remind myself that we're in that lower vibration and bring that forward. No, that was very beautiful, Candida. So thank you so much. So Leigh, what about you?
So, gratitude, as Candida was saying, it's a practice. And I think those of us who are steeped in it, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget to do it, especially when life is busy. When I say I like to mix research and neuroscience with sort of other ways of other practices of looking at how we work and how we move through the world. So on the one hand, gratitude literally regulates our hormones, lowers our stress. There's Martin Seligman who had his 3 good things research, like that saying 3 good things a day, just writing them down literally helps your physical and mental health on every single level. So one of the ways that I do that with my clients, I work one-on-one with people, and I also have an online writing group. And every Monday, what are your plans? What are your goals for the week? And every Friday is, what are you celebrating? And I've been doing this for a really long time, but I noticed when I said, what are your celebrations? What are your wins? People never responded. When I say, what are you grateful for? People respond much more. And another thing I use these days, I'm using the word glimmer, gratitude and glimmer. And a glimmer is, and it's from polyvagal theory, but I actually got it from Martha Beck's book. I heard about it from Martha Beck's book, Beyond Anxiety, that it's just these little things. Recognize the little things that are in your life. And I found people are much, because it's like we put this high bar for what a celebration is or what a win is. But when it's a glimmer, it's a little bit that we're grateful for, then things like, I love the sound of the rain, the comfort of my bed, I love these new shoes. My 11-year-old son turned around and blew a kiss when I dropped him off at school, where those things and they begin to tell a story. And the thing about gratitude also is without gratitude, we can't see our big picture. So you can have as many goals as you want, but until you see how they land and fit in your life, all you do is have goals that you're working toward and you're just working. Whereas the gratitude, the celebrations, the wins give you that bigger picture. And I always say you can have a patchwork quilt. And if you're only looking at the empty spaces that you don't have yet, you don't know what it looks like. But the minute you pull back and say, oh, wow, I love that color and I want to extend that color and I like this thing and I want to do more of that, it not only completes the cycle, it helps you know where you want to go next and really tap into what it is that you want. So gratitude is magic and gratitude is a practice. And I think other people have said this, but just to have the patience to realize that these things do not happen overnight. When I think back to when I was like in my early 20s, at the time I didn't realize it, but I really had crippling anxiety. And sometimes I'd look at myself and I'm like, oh, that just doesn't happen anymore. I don't wake up in the mornings like, oh my God, what's wrong? What's happening now? And that just doesn't happen anymore. And it's because of a long time practice that includes, like Candida said, when you wake up in the morning, before you're fully awake, don't scroll, don't get into something else. Practice gratitude immediately. And then that starts your day with gratitude.
Thanks so much, Leigh. And Erica, what about you?
So I just want to bounce off just what Leigh said about the having crippling anxiety, and you don't wake up with that anymore. And it's a lifelong practice. It's something that doesn't happen overnight. And I think that that's important for everyone to know, because you may wake up and say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this thing. And then the next day you still feel like crap, or you're still feeling guilt or shame, or any of those number of things that are basically the opposite of gratitude. When you have anxiety, that's really a fear of things that you can't control. And you can't control all these things around you, and that's what you're having anxiety over. But when you express gratitude, you're expressing gratitude for things that are within your control, really, because you can see those things and you can feel those things. And the authentic gratitude, to me, it's a feeling. It's not just saying something. Or I see a lot, you go out to a store, for example, and I run a restaurant. I see this happen a lot in my restaurant as well, where somebody says, thank you, I appreciate you. And it just rolls off the tongue so fast. And some people may genuinely feel that, but I think that it's become such a force of habit to just say, thank you, I appreciate you, or thank you, that it just comes out and you're not really experiencing that or feeling that. So authentic gratitude is really, it comes with a genuine emotional connection to the world around you that you experience from the inside. And I agree that it starts with very simple things, or micro gratitude is what I like to call it. When you talked about, Candida said it, you said it, waking up in the morning, don't jump onto Instagram, don't do all of that stuff, just express some kind of gratitude. And even if it's appreciating your nice warm bed that you're snuggled in. I was someone who, I didn't have a warm bed all the time. I didn't always have a place to sleep or a home to go home to or anything of my own. And so now when I wake up in the morning, that's probably one of the biggest things I express gratitude, is that I am waking up in a safe, warm house. My children are waking up in a safe, warm house. They're going to have breakfast on the table. I didn't always have that. That's a gratitude that for me, I feel with so much emotion. I haven't even started my day yet. And my day could be a disaster. I could have all these bills due and all these meetings, and my payment processor didn't batch over, and any number of things could go wrong. My kid could break his arm, all of this stuff. But I've already started the day off with the feeling and a sense that I belong to this world and this world belongs to me, rather than this anxious, overwhelming, what's going to happen and how am I going to get through today? And like Leigh, I experienced chronic anxiety my whole life until I really started changing my mindset around what anxiety was and what guilt was and that shame that I feel. And I think a lot of what we express in the opposite end of isn't gratitude, but the shame we feel surrounding society and the things that we don't have that other people have that we want. And gratitude takes away from that. And it tells us that what we have is enough and who we are is enough. I like to encourage everyone to express the micro gratitudes. No matter how bad your day is, let's talk about the one thing that you actually really do appreciate. Your cup of coffee in the morning, your favorite pen, the fact that your husband put gas in the car last night and you don't have to wake up and worry about that in 20-degree weather, something like that. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have to sit in traffic. You're still going to have to sit in traffic. You're still going to have to put gas in the car the next day, but at least today you have that experience where somebody did that for you and you can appreciate that and feel gratitude for that, regardless of the commute ahead of you. I also think that I'm a big fan of writing things down. And even if you don't want to keep it, you don't have to keep it, but writing it all down and getting it all out and understanding that our brain is wired to think negatively. It is a survival mechanism. So we're automatically going to see the negative. We're automatically going to see the difficulty. And you have to force yourself to see the positive side of things and to express that gratitude. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. All of my years of healing and learning and growing have taught me that childhood trauma that I have, it'll still come back to me. And I'll find myself at the end of a long day, and I've probably accomplished a million things that day that I just didn't even think of. And I'm saying, why can't I do more? What is wrong with me? Like, why didn't I get this done? Why didn't I get to that? And that's the time when that gratitude and even micro gratitude comes in, where you stop yourself and you say, but I did accomplish this, and I'm grateful that I had that. And rounding about back to where I said, you can do all of the things, just not all at the same time. I can't be selling the business and be talking to clients and spend time with my children. And so maybe I didn't make a sale today. I'll make one tomorrow, but tonight I got to have paint night with my children and just focus on that. And I appreciate that more than anything in the world, that time that I get to spend with them, because time is so short and life is so short. And I think that when you're having those feelings where you're expressing that surface gratitude because you know you should be grateful, but you're not really feeling it, it's okay. You can feel that. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling that. And you can also feel your way out of that by then just talking about the things that you are really grateful for and the things that mattered. Looking at the bright side, seeing the silver lining on anything. We've talked about a lot of death during this conversation, and it's hard to say that there was a bright side out of someone passing away. And I went through this too. I felt a little bit of shame and guilt over my mom passed away. And then a lot of great stuff started happening to me. And I don't say it was because she passed away, but I found my voice when I was writing. I just created this whole world that I think I never would have thought possible. And I did a lot of that because I saw her life was so short and there were so many things she wanted to do that she couldn't do. And so her passing really lit a fire in me to go out and break this cycle and live in the world the way I should be living in the world. And I think that you don't want to say, oh, I'm grateful my mom passed, but I am grateful for the lessons I learned from her passing. And that's how, authentic gratitude works. And that's what I feel when I express that.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Erica. And Sandy, what about you?
I love what everyone has said so far. I'm gonna take a little bit of a different approach. I love all the micro gratitude, and I've not heard that term before, but I love that. I want to go on a macro level. The women that I work with and I've worked with through the years, sometimes it's hard for them to feel gratitude in the moment because of what they're going through, whether it's loss of a child or loss of a spouse. In those moments, and I can speak personally for myself, when I'm going through a major challenge, it is so hard for me when I'm in the throes of that pain, in the midst of it. It's so hard for me to find anything to be grateful for in those moments. It doesn't last. So I do a few things with my clients that are a little bit different. Number one, when we connect to spirit, or I help them connect to their soul energy, on a higher perspective, they're able to see how everything in life is happening for them and not to them. When we're feeling like a victim, that this has happened to me and this has happened to me and this has happened to me, it's going to be really hard. I call that in the basement thinking. It's going to be really hard to access gratitude for the things that are happening in your life. However, when you can get a different perspective and see how all of life is connected, and how everything is happening for you, it pulls you out of that victimization. And then you can go, oh my God, thank God that happened, because if that hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened. So that's one of the techniques that I do with my clients, is get a soul's perspective on it to help them move from this is happening to me to this is happening for me. It's a really powerful process that I bring my clients through, again, because when someone is in a deeply emotional state, whether it's sadness or resentment or anger or frustration or guilt or shame, again, those are all vibrational energies that we can travel through. I believe at the core of every single one of us is our goodness. It's our light. And then all of these emotions are stacked on top of it. And I don't know that we've done a great job in our society in teaching people how to be with certain emotions and how to move through them. If someone feels sad or anxious, here's a pill for that. There's a pill for this. There's so many quick fixes, or that sometimes gratitude can feel like it's like putting lipstick on something that just to make it look better. So a process that I take people through, it's an emotional clearing process, and it helps them go through the stories in their mind through each emotion. And we start with anger. For so many women have no idea how to access their anger. That's what I have found in my practice. And so I help them find the stories, and I have them stay in that energy of anger until they've purged all the angry thoughts. And I tell them, this is not a time to be kind. It's not a time to be nice, and it's not a time to be spiritual. I want you to purge, like really go into all of that energy of anger. Then when we're done with that, then we move underneath anger is sadness. And I have them go through all the stories of sadness and all of that. And then underneath sadness is the energy of fear. So they're giving themselves permission to travel down into the caverns of all the stories in their mind, because it's the story that's going to keep them out of gratitude. And then when we purge all the fearful thoughts, then they're able to go into appreciation and gratitude. But sometimes it's impossible for them to reach that until they go through all these different layers of emotion. And then once they're in that energy of gratitude, they're like, oh my God, I feel free. And it doesn't often take that long. It can take 10 minutes. It can take a half an hour. Sometimes we do multiple rounds. But there's a lot of, I don't know if you would call it platitudes, but there's a lot of sayings of positivity that just drive me crazy. Just be grateful. You know what? In certain moments, it's really hard for people to reach for that. Or just don't worry, just trust. But people don't know how to do that. And that's what I do with my clients. I teach them how to surrender, how to shift from being out there focused to in here focused and get connected to their own spirit and the God of their understanding. Because again, that's where all the magic happens. Can I tell one quick story?
Sure.
So a dear friend of mine, her name was Sue, she had passed. And after she passed, I was connecting with her energy. And she said to me, Sandy, life is like being inside of a warehouse. And the warehouse can feel dark sometimes because you don't always know where you're going. She said, but what you have to know is your inner light is like that flashlight. You have a flashlight in this warehouse. You get to point your flashlight wherever you want to. If your flashlight, what you're seeing in your life is not something that you like, shift the focus and point your flashlight on something else. And so it's like what you guys were saying, like just shift your focus. I live a 5-minute walk from the ocean. So for me to walk to the ocean and I just see the ocean and my body goes, ah. So sometimes it is about like, how can I change what I'm seeing? Shift the focus. I call it pivoting. How can we pivot? And sometimes that can help just calm our nervous systems. But I really appreciate everything and the experience that you all have here tonight. I think it's absolutely amazing. All of us coming from different parts of the world, and there's so many similarities and common threads of heart and soul stuff here. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. And thank you so much. And so Brandy had to step out, but we are going to have Sophia come back in and join us and help us close. But one of the things that I want to just add to the conversations that you guys have had is that, so at my lowest point in my life, I was not doing well. And so that was one of the things that gratitude is what pulled me out. And so I was, and normally I'm the glass half full person, but there had just been so many things that had been going on in my life in that very moment, and I was really struggling, and so having suicidal thoughts was like where I was at, and gratitude is what saved my life. And so just being able to like doing that surface level, and then as Sandy said, finding a little, like getting it to be a little deeper, allowing myself to be angry at the situation and being at whatever it is that was going on and feeling disappointed. And how I was able to get through that was being able to dig a little deeper as to like, how can I? But some days it was like Erica said, is I have a warm bed. And just waking up in the morning and saying, I have a warm bed and I'm covering my head back up and I'm not going anywhere doing anything, but that was my gratitude. And so I had started putting that out on Facebook because it was just to help me get it external. And so I was actually sharing, I am grateful for, and then I would actually put it out there. And so then I had a family member who had reached out to me and I said, day whatever, I don't even know what day that I was on when I finally said, okay, I'm good. And the person said, well, how many days are you doing this for? And I said, however many days that it takes. And that was how I was able to pull myself back out of feeling so despair. And so I really have loved this conversation and how it has really shifted. It wasn't what I had laid out in terms of questions, but the conversations really, and I loved how all of this really came together. And so Sophia, I am extremely grateful for Sacred You and having this opportunity of bringing all of us ladies together. And so I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you. And we are extremely grateful for you, Rollie, for bringing this panel discussion and everything else that you bring, your vibrancy and your gratitude to the Sacred You community and to the world. And I think we need to turn this panel discussion into an ongoing wisdom circle, Rollie, but that's another conversation.
I agree.
Yes. So again, thank you. And I'm grateful for all the amazing women who have taken an hour plus of their time to share the power of gratitude and everything else. And thank you, Candida, from joining us from Australia. And of course, Lee, Sandy, and Erica, and Brandy, who has left us from the other side of the world. I know, Erica, you're in the Southern Hemisphere, but for us, it's still the other side of the world for me, and I'm really grateful for that. For everyone who is listening or watching, whether it's live or when this is edited and recorded, and I'm extremely grateful for our team who do such a good job at editing all this. Do click on the links below and check out everything that is offered. And while you're there, come and check out Sacred You. It's very simple. It's Sacred You, that's the letter U.love. If you put /join free, you can join us for free in our village. We do so much in our village. We've got a few more panel discussions coming up for the rest of the year, but then we're really into wisdom circles. We have archetype circles. We have our special interest tribes and sacred rooms and so much more. So check it all out there and come and join us for our next event, whenever that is, within a couple of days. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who is joining us.